Enlisted is an MMO squad-based shooter set in World War II with an emphasis on historical accuracy and large-scale battles. The game is currently in open beta and is being developed by Gaijin Entertainment, the studio who's most well known for producing War Thunder. It's free to play and available on PC and next-gen consoles. The game's unique premise is its squad system, which has you control a soldier and a set of AI squad mates which you can cycle between at any point during a match. You can take up to 4 different squads with you into battle, with no more than 3 of them being infantry-based squads and 1 vehicle-based squad. Each one of these has a different specialism, such as snipers or engineers for the infantry squads, or tanks and fighter planes for the vehicle squads. You can level up individual soldiers within squads, as well as the entire squad as a unit by playing as them in a match. The idea is that you're able to customize the individual members of your squad to have varying pieces of equipment and weaponry, so that you're able to swap between them during gameplay in order to take on the different circumstances and challenges as they arise, which is actually a really cool gameplay mechanic. It also means if you make a mistake and run into a room full of enemies, or randomly get blown up trying to attempt a flank, you still have other squad mates to switch to, so as to continue trying to take or hold the objective. The fundamental gameplay is actually pretty good. All of the weapons are historically accurate and in most cases are really fun and satisfying to use. Also, with the different squads and soldiers having access to different pieces of equipment and weaponry, it ensures that there's a decent amount of gameplay variety to be had, and that you don't just end up using the best gun all the time. This means that, depending on your squad at the time, you could find yourself aggressively pushing the objective with a machine gun and large assault squad, flanking and trying to find a good position to put down a spawn beacon as an engineer, or taking up a position and picking off enemies from afar as a sniper squad, all within the same match. The pacing of the battles is very obviously designed to be large and chaotic, mostly true to how many battles of World War II were actually fought, and is therefore far more similar to Battlefield in this respect than other FPS titles such as CSGO or Call of Duty. The AI enemies and teammates also vastly outweigh the amount of actual human players in the game, so the majority of enemies you'll go up against will actually be bots and quite easy to shoot unless you miss your shots or go up against multiple enemies. If you do go up against another player, however, you'll need to ensure that you wipe out their entire squad, otherwise they'll simply take control of another nearby character and come at you for revenge. Map design is also pretty good, with well-placed objectives and enough cover so that you're not constantly feeling exposed and vulnerable. There's also enough difference in terrain and landscape so that the maps all feel unique and are reasonably good looking. Variety is kind of the key factor here, with all of the gameplay mechanics seemingly designed to keep things fresh with each match and ensure that battles will rarely feel the same. The game is also really careful to try to never take you fully out of the action or give you any downtime, keeping you right in the battle as much as possible. It isn't all perfect though. Let's start with perhaps the biggest issue first, which also happens to be one of the game's biggest strengths: your AI teammates. Most of the time, the AI system works pretty well and helps service the gameplay nicely, but you'll encounter a few instances where you'll get flanked and die, only to discover the rest of your squad were wiped out because they were obliviously stood out in the open. You'll now have to respawn at the other side of the map and run all the way back over again under enemy fire just so it could potentially happen again. What can make this experience even more frustrating is that the UI barely even indicates that this is happening. There's no alerts or notifications for a squad member's death, except for looking at their status in the squad panel. This could and should be easily fixed, as this system as a whole is what the game is built upon, and it only needs a slight modification to AI positioning and some kind of alert to display when AI teammates are eliminated in order for it to no longer be an issue. The game still has a few other open beta related issues, which are kind of to be expected at this stage in development, but still present nevertheless. These include hit detection issues, where sometimes you can shoot enemies multiple times without them dying or seemingly taking any damage at all, or you can shoot straight through an enemy without it even registering. Similarly, there's currently no bullet penetration at all in the game, and you're unable to shoot through thin walls or even windows. This can be made worse when, in some cases, you're unaware that you're even shooting something close to you that you can't even see, when you're laying down in rubble for example. The overall performance of the game isn't amazing either. Granted, the game does look pretty good most of the time, and even has some advanced features such as Nvidia DLSS. But even on my RTX 2080 Super, I still get random frame drops and stutters, even on the lowest settings. There are also 2 minor issues I have with the game at the moment, which are easily addressed, but currently have a very adverse effect on the whole experience. Namely how slow and clunky the movement can feel at times, and how completely unintuitive and frustrating the UI is in general. Now, the movement isn't terrible, but if you're putting this game up against Call of Duty, Fortnite or any other major FPS titles, it does feel slower and less refined, which may actually suit some players. but the majority just won't favour it over the competition. As for the user interface, in my opinion it needs a complete rework, particularly in the menus. The in-game HUD isn't so bad, but it isn't great either and potentially lacks a lot of visual information and flair, particularly when compared to other games. But it is the in-game menus that made me consistently frustrated when I first started playing the game. Now there's obviously a lot of different elements to this game. There's several campaigns, each with different teams containing multiple squads that all have individual soldiers outfitted with different perks and pieces of equipment, yet there's almost no order or explanation of it that's immediately clear to the player, especially when all they want to do is hop into a match and blow things up. It's visually uninteresting and cluttered, with the content taking a more is more approach and none of it really ordered in terms of priority. This means that all of the information is given equal importance and therefore none of it has any importance. Simple things such as unlocking a new soldier and adding them to the squad, or being able to tell quickly what the stats for a new weapon are just unnecessarily complicated. There's just too much going on with absolutely everything having a level and seemingly none of it really mattering that much to the overall gameplay. I spent a decent while going through the menus to create this video and I still don't fully understand what a lot of it means. Finally, with this being a free-to-play game with purchases, there are some balancing issues. You can obviously buy more and better equipment, soldiers, squads and vehicles if you're prepared to part with the cash to do so, but I haven't seen it make that much of a difference in game, as the balance for most of the weapons is pretty reasonable. You'll obviously have some form of advantage in certain situations if you have a squad full of machine gunners or snipers over a squad full of regular soldiers, with no special perks or equipment, but good players will still be able to come out on top and everything is still able to be earned in game. The pay to win elements are most obvious when discussing vehicles, namely the bombers, which seem to be extremely unbalanced at the moment. They're unlocked fairly late on in the game's progression, but there's obviously ways to unlock them earlier if you're prepared to pay for it. Smart players have been able to work out where enemies are spawning from, or which objective they're trying to capture, and carpet bomb the entire area for massive multi-kills. What's worse is there's currently no real way to counter it, especially if the enemy is lower leveled. This kind of thing could be extremely off-putting for new players, especially when combined with all the other issues I've spoken about, as they essentially get stuck in a spawn loop until they're able to get lucky and escape or just leave the game. If you think I may have been overly critical of this game, then you're probably right. It is actually a lot of fun at times, and the squad mechanic is definitely something fresh and unique, but I still have to make clear some of the issues in this game even if it is a free-to-play beta, because none of them are unfixable. I think this game could be really genuinely great if they're able to implement improvements to fix the issues I've addressed in this video during the beta period, which is actually something they've already started doing with almost daily updates. So if you're wondering whether this is a game worth trying out, then I would have to say yes it is, especially if you've got bored of the ultra competitive FPS titles and just want to blow off some steam with some friends. It's got a decent amount of charm and uniqueness which really help it find a niche in the genre, and its core mechanics are actually really quite good. What's more, it is free and only 15GB, so if it ends up not being for you, you haven't really lost anything in trying it out. To wrap it up, I think this is a flawed but promising title, but it will all come down to how the studio tackles the current issues in the game and what may change as it develops towards its full release. Let me know what you guys think. Have you tried it out and think it's good, or does this not look like the game for you? Let me know in the comments below, and thanks for watching.
Nice. This is difficult to aim.
You killed yourself.